Join host Charisma Eve on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and unapologetic authenticity. In each episode, Charisma dives deep into conversations, exploring what it truly means to embrace oneself fully and live life with genuine charisma. From personal antidotes to interviews, Unapologetically Me is a space where vulnerability meets strength, where listeners are encouraged to celebrate their uniqueness and step into their power without reservation. Tune in for inspiring stories, practical tips, and a dose of unfiltered wisdom as Charisma Eve guides you towards embracing your most authentic self. It's time to own your truth and live unapologetically. And now your host, Charisma Eve.
And welcome everyone to Unapologetically Me. Welcome this afternoon. I am Charisma Eve. And I am so happy to have you with me this afternoon. I hope you've been enjoying the few weeks with our guests that we've had. I've tried to make certain to have some interesting guests, and I think I've succeeded. And we continue on this afternoon with a very dear person to my heart. So dear that he has called me auntie for the last 20 plus years. Mr. Adrian Sloan. I have known this young man for quite a while. He came into my life some years ago, and he is a very dear person to my heart, to my husband and I. And he does a lot of things. I'll just put it to you that way. So much so, he calls himself, or we call him, Dynamite Sloan. And he is an entrepreneur. He works with the youth. He works with the culture in keeping us grounded and helping us to learn about finances and how to get ourselves culturally secured. I would say that. And he is a minister of many things. He used to be a minister in the church, but even though he's not a minister in the church anymore, you know, that's not just a platform that you minister in. You minister in many ways. And he has been teaching at Livingstone College just recently, doing some ministering there. So this evening, he's going to talk to us about finance and business and cultural collaboration. I'm so interested in learning. You know, I've always had a saying that when you stop learning, you're dead. Mm-hmm. And if the Lord allows me to see December 24th, I will be 59 years old. And so I'm always interested in learning more, especially about business and finances, because I don't know a lot about how to be financially free and literal. So this is a conversation that I seek to learn more about. So at this time, I'm going to unleash Mr. Adrian Dynamite Sloan on you, the listeners of Unapologetically Me. Come on with it. Let's see what you got, Mr. Sloan.
Well, thank you so much, Auntie. I appreciate it. It's Charisma Eve, man. That's just a beautiful name, and birthday a day before Christmas is fitting, right? So again, happy birthday ahead of time, right? And so
thank you, baby.
Everyone, you're welcome. Good evening, everyone that's out there, all of our listeners and followers. Count it as an honor and a blessing to be able to share with you all just for a moment, to get to know one another and just to be able to talk about some things that I really feel like could be able to benefit all of our lives, right? Because one thing I learned, you know, from teaching, the more you sell it, the more you buy it, right? The more you put it out there, the better you become. Iron sharpens iron, right? So education is a two-way street. We all learn from one another. I've learned a long time ago, you can learn from a fool if you pay close attention. Right. And so we all can pick up on things of what we can do better to improve our lives from the lessons of others. And so it doesn't really matter where we are or what stage we are in life. Age doesn't matter. I've lived to understand that it's some young wise men and there's some old fools, right? And so age is not the determination of what you know, it's your experience. And experience comes in two ways, right? It comes from your real-time direct application, and it also comes from what you learn from other people. So I'll open up today from just talking a little bit about my background and what I've been able to accomplish. And, we're grateful for that, to be able to do so. Originally from Newark, New Jersey, Brick City baby through and through, right? And son of a Golden Glove boxer there in Jersey. My father was a legend, so my brand is called Living Legend also, because I realize as you impact many of people across the world, one of the biggest things is to be a living legend and not just a dead one, right? You don't want the accolades and things to be said about you or just when you're going, but you do want to be able to be alive to experience it. And so me coming from a lineage of a man that was spoken after many times after many years after he was gone, I began to appreciate the footprint that we put on life. So me coming from Jersey and then moving to the South, with my mother in Salisbury is where, Miss Charisma E began to water my plant, right? Begin to water my seed and to help me to grow and to become the man that I am today. So my background was that, going through sports and did that, number 6 in the nation. And as I talked to a lot of these kids, I was one who was a troubled teen himself. So I like to talk about that before we go into the financial concepts, because I think it's helpful. Just the way you start doesn't mean you have a messed up start, don't mean you're gonna have a messed up, ending or finish. How you start is not always how you end up. And I started out with a great foundation and made a bad choice. I made a bad decision one day, got into a fight and got expelled and lost a full ride scholarship to St. Augustine that I really felt like was going to be able to help my life grow. But that journey, put me on a track to be where I'm at today. So wherever you are, you have to appreciate your journey, right? When I went through my journey, I found what I was supposed to be doing, and that was helping others. And so talking to troubled youth and teens today is something that I love to do because I see me in them. They wrote me off too. They said I wasn't going to make it too, right? They said that I was going to end up in jail and I was going to amount to nothing. And that's what they said. But it's not what people say, it's what you believe. Hello. That's really where it hits the root, is what do you believe in yourself? Do you believe the thoughts and visions in your own mind, or do you believe the things people whisper in your ear? And I grew to learn to listen to what's inside of me and the mentors that were sowing good seeds on my life. And this how that seed began to grow. So when I lost that scholarship, I went to work in corporate America like everyone else, but entrepreneurship was my thing. So I started doing business early from mentors at 15, 16, 17. I started studying business and understanding how this works. And so if you're not a person that finance was taught in your household, it's okay. I wasn't either. If your mother or father didn't teach you, or you grew up without that financial backbone, or that rich uncle who gave you $100,000 to get started in your business, guess what? It didn't happen for me either. But what I do understand of it is that's never an excuse in today's society, because we have something called Google. Hello. We have something called the internet, right? And you do have something called libraries, right? And so if anything that's interested to you, you will take time to learn. An expert is a person who takes time to learn a subject matter. Right. And so if it's something in your life that you want to get better at, take time to study it. That's how you become an expert in it. That 4-year degree from a college just means you went somewhere for 4 years to study a subject matter. Isn't that what that matter? They gave you a test, you passed it. Then they say, okay, you're an expert. Here's your bachelor's. Here's your master's degree. Right. That only came from studying and reading. So what I'm sharing with you from my background, from a humble beginning to become the Adrian Dynamite Sloan today, I shared the beginning with you because it didn't start that way. It took dedication. It took me taking time to learn. It took me listening to mentors. It took me failing forward, right? I always say your biggest success is one of your greatest failures too, right? So you show me a successful person, I'll show you a person who failed a lot. The difference of it is they didn't stop. They got up and they kept going to become what is perceived to be an overnight success, right? But it's a lot of work behind the scene. And so this is my background that I come from. And so to be in the space I am now, I started businesses early, from fragrance stores to lawn care services. And I got into the space, become a financial advisor and a business consultant. One day, I was blessed of a person to walk into my place of business and talk to me about insurance and investments. And ladies and gentlemen, you never know who's going to walk into your life. And I had that conversation with them, and I began to look at finance from a different lens. I always wonder, why do some people have and some people don't? I just always wondered that, right? Like, why do some people, some parents, when they kids in school, you always see that certain parents at every game, right? They don't work, right? They don't have a job. And my mom always said she was at work. That's why she couldn't come to the game. But I'm looking at little Johnny, daddy, he always there. So he don't work, right? So the correlation of time, putting in time is what brings out money. I believe is what most of us are taught. We're taught active income. But I began to always question it. Why do certain people have more time and they have the money to have the freedom that they want? This made me very intrigued to take finance seriously and take a deeper look of how do you make money in different ways versus active income. So I got my insurance license. I got my security license. I passed the federal exams and the state exams for that. And that little kid that they said wasn't going to be nobody, I guess the federal government said I was smart enough, Auntie, because I passed the federal exam and I got my security licenses to be able to talk about securities all across the country, from TSPs to 401ks to 403bs to 457s with military to different types of insurance products. I studied that subject matter to become an expert in. So today, as I teach it from a place of experience, not of a place of theory, right? Where someone told me and I just listened to what they said. No, this came from countless hours of study and then looking at consumer behavior of how do we as a people spend our money. So I'll talk today from a space of, number one, why is finance important? I'll give you some information I'll share with some of my students. The first factor I really feel like is going to be able to help change your life financially is understanding financial emotional intelligence. Number one, right? We always talk about emotional intelligence and the IQ of people and how people handle things emotionally. But what is your financial emotional intelligence? Is a question I would ask everybody. And so, Sloan, what do you mean by that? When you look at things, how do you spend your money based upon your emotions? See, some people, we all have vices in some shape, form, or fashion. But when you're stressed out, how do you spend your money? Mm-hmm. How many ways do you spend your money just in your day-to-day operation? What is your impulses? Right, that makes you spend your money, right? Are you that person that when you got a lump sum of money coming, your subconscious start going and you start spending the money before you get it, right? See, this is all financial emotional intelligence, right? And so when you understand this is just how the brain works, you follow me? You can't do nothing about that because you're a human being. But your financial emotions intelligence is conditioned around understanding that does exist, but how do you control it? See, there's nothing wrong with thinking the thoughts, but you got to think about what you're thinking about. You know what I'm saying? You need to think about what you're thinking about a little bit and understand, is that impulsive decision necessary or is it a want? Do you really need it or do you just want it? And sometimes we confuse ourselves, right? That we'll say that a want is a need. So what I tell my students of it is, I want you to look at what is a need. And a need is something that's essential. An essential is food, right? Clothes, shelter, water. So water don't mean Starbucks. Hello. Right? And food don't mean Chipotle. Right? So these are wants that we get inside of our subconscious and we start telling ourselves, well, I need that. I need that. That money about to come in. And in your subconscious, you already said, I've been wanting to buy that big screen TV. I've been wanting to, redo my bedroom, and I'm gonna get a new bedroom set. I seen some curtains the other day when I was at Ollie's. I'm gonna go back and get them curtains when that money come in. You follow me? See, it's human nature that our subconscious starts to talk about. So I want you guys to consider. I want you to start thinking about what you're thinking about, and start separating the want from the need. And give yourself a step back. I promise you, everybody on this call right now, if you were to go back and look at your budget, which was topic 3 in my session, and go through your budget and go through your bank statement and just look at your consumer behavior. just take a good look. Just go through it with a fine tooth, right? And the gas station runs, right? Picking up that extra soda pop when you had soda at the house, right? You know, when you go to Walmart, them extra things in your buggy, you went in to spend $40 and you spent 75, right? You know, when you start looking at the financial emotional intelligence of the things that stimulate you that you buy, you confusing a want with a need. And then when you're sitting down every month and not creating a budget to keep you in constraint, if you know this is the money that's coming in, you have to be mindful of budgeting out those bills, but then putting a miscellaneous area over there. Because you know you're gonna go out with your husband or your wife, you're gonna go eat some food out here and there. You know, you're gonna, ladies, y'all know y'all gonna get that hair right. You're gonna get some nails done or something like that. Come on now, you're gonna grab your couple of things. Fellas, you're going out, you're gonna get you a new tie or set of shoes or some new tools. You know that miscellaneous is gonna be there. So budget for it. Budget. Budget
That
for
makes sense.
Budget for the miscellaneous. And so when you know you're budgeting for the miscellaneous, when that budget run out for the week or that 2-week period of time, it's done. If you start treating it like this, all you got, not thinking about what's coming back in, but if this is all you have, how you gonna manage it? So like I tell my students, right, you need shoes on your feet, but that don't mean you need the Jordans, right? You need something to cover your feet so you don't get blisters on the bottom of your feet, but that don't mean you got to spend $200 worth of it. That's your emotion telling you that you need that. But that's a want. Because them same shoes, sister, that you saw that you've been wanting, I gotta have them red pumps. Blue is hard to come by. I found some blue ones. I gotta go get these blue ones. What happens to them heels once you wear them? They go up under the bed with the rest of the heels you bought. Right? They go in the closet, right? 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, what them heels at? Them heels with the other heels in the corner. Come on, that you needed them too, right? But they all ended up in the same place. Am I talking right? And so when you start looking at your own behavior, understanding your financial emotional intelligence, understanding the difference between a want and a need, to start thinking about what you're thinking about, right? Doing that budget plan and really look at what you got going on. And then the last factor of that deal is understanding the cash flow quadrant. The cash flow quadrant to me is so huge when you really look at the 4 sectors by a gentleman by the name of Robert Kiyosaki. If any of you ever heard him before, he wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you all are familiar. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about what it was to work, to be with his poor dad, which was a governor of Hawaii, right? He went into politics, but his rich dad was a businessman. And so he wrote that book and understood of it, right? And one of my favorite chapters in that particular book was called Mind Your Own Business. Hello. See, mind your own business, when we hear it in our culture, it could be something rude. Mind your business. And we take it to be, stay out my business. I ain't talking to you, right? That's how we take that. Mind your business. You follow me? That ain't none of your business, it's my business. That's how we take it. But mind your business and Rich Dad, Poor Dad was talking about mind the business that pays you. Hello. So you could be going to your job, right, and working their business, quote unquote. That's theirs. They the CEO, they the owner, they own that business, but mind your business. So what business have you created that gives you a passive residual income without you being there? Hello. See, so many people, including my mother, worked for a company her entire life until she couldn't work no more. They used to say, you're going to work yourself to death. And literally, I've seen people in our culture work themselves to death. Hurting their body, not eating correctly, not sleeping correctly to be able to feed their family. And I commend all of our ancestors that paid the price for us to be here. But in today's day, right, Mark Twain says something. He said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Right? And so when we look at the history of those who come before us, we need to pay attention to what was their outcome after working what I call the 40-40-40 rule, right? When you're working that prime age from 25 to 65, 40 years of your life, right? Working 40 hours a week, right? Every day you're going and trying to get that overtime, that time and a half, right? To end up retiring at age 65 on the back end of your life where your body's not as mobile, off of 40% of the income that you could live 100% off of anyway. Hello.
Right.
That's the 40-40-40 rule. So as Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. We could look at the history of those who work active income matters or paying attention or minding somebody else's business and never created a system for themselves. So in Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, he spoke about this. The left side of the quadrant, and I want all of us to think about where we are, is employees. Employees trade time for money. That's what we do. You go to work, you clock in, clock out. Oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. I got to go make that money. So you go clock in. When you clock out, the check stop. True or not true? You get your paycheck stub and they say, these are hours you work for the week. And this is what y'all agreed on what your payment is. That's how it works as an employee. You trade time for money. A self-employed person is a person that's more of a high end. They control their schedule a little bit more. They have a more freedom, like a mechanic, a stylist, a barber, right? A truck driver, right? You can be an owner operator. So you control a little bit more of your schedule. But guess what? Even a dentist making 200, 300,000 a year can't get paid if they don't pull teeth. Hello. An electrician still don't get paid unless they go run that wire. A plumber still don't get paid unless they go lay those pipes, right? Everyone is self-employed. You just own your job, right? You got enough skills from a technician standpoint that you create a business, but you still got to go work in that business to make money. Does that make sense?
Right.
Self-employed.
Yes.
That's everyone on the left side of the quadrant. Your goal should be, from everything that I said to you in this opening conversation, understanding your financial and emotional intelligence, understand how to classify your income based upon wants and needs and doing a budget. And no matter how if you're an employee or a self-employed, your goal is to get to the right side of the quadrant. Now, the right side of the quadrant is where freedom starts happening. And as a people, this is how we have to see it. I can work a job and mind your business, but at the same time, I'm going to start my business. Right. And my business is I'm going to mine. And that's a business owner where you create systems, you hire staff, you put people in position. Right. And now you have money being made passively without you actively working. See, I done been to Walmart plenty of times, but I ain't never seen none of Sam Walton children in there. Hello. I see Ford vehicles driving around everywhere, but I ain't never seen Harry Ford children, in the car dealership when you go buy a Ford. You see what I'm saying? So a business owner is a person who creates a system and they employ people to run it and they make the money passively.
I see.
To get to the bottom side of the right quadrant, which is an investor, which means all of us need to learn different ways of how to invest our money. Right? Whether you have a 401k or a 403b or 457, whatever it is, you need to learn how to take some money. I told my students you need to always, take 10 to 20% of the income that you have coming in and you need to invest it to something that's going to pay you without you working. That is the goal of America. America itself is a country, but when you look at the United States Constitution, it's a company. You have 50 individual states that came together who created a constitution, which is called an agreement. They made a business agreement that all states are going to come together to operate as a federal country. That's business. So when you look at how the tax laws is written in this country, they're written for businesses. They're not written for people. And so when you look at if you are a person and you're using your social security number for everything, you're actually you're overpaying in tax. That's what they always say. You ever heard this saying, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? Because the rich are the people or the wealthy who start understanding how does money really work and they operate behind businesses. They don't operate as a person, they operate as a corporation. And this is how you begin to save money every year when you do your taxes. I don't care if you work a job as a librarian, you better have an LLC. So you can start writing off, right, some of that gas mileage and some of those uniforms and some of them cell phone bills, right? So you can start getting some of your money back without giving the government a tax-free loan every year, because that's all a tax refund is. A tax refund is them giving you back some of the money that they took from you all year long based upon you itemizing it. So that means the federal government have a 0% interest loan based on every employee on this call. Because they get to use everybody's money for free all year long. And then you have to send paperwork back to them to prove what you did. And they say, okay, here's a refund of what you gave me. I'm going to give you some of it back. Is this starting to make sense? You know? And so this is how this stuff works from a tax refund. That means you overpaid. Anytime you go to the store and say, I want a refund, right? You're getting some money back that you spent. Come on, family, let's make it make sense. This is a country that's a company. And this is why you see the wealthy people operate as a country, as a company inside of this country. This is the separation. So,
I have a question. I have several questions, but I know I can't ask them all, but being that I'm on disability, how does that work for me? Like, can I guess maybe that might be something I could possibly ask you on a personal note. But if it were a person such as myself on the call, how would that work for me? Like,
Yeah. And
how could I?
as far as the income is concerned,
Yeah.
okay. So again, going back to understanding the rules, right? As a person, you're an entity, right? But as a company, having a company itself is an entity. So if you have a structure, right, well, income is going into a entity and not you as a person, that's a different ball game. And so it is some tax rules in that deal where you can set up a trust account, and again, it's one of my favorite topics because a trust account is something called an irrevocable trust. And so if you set up a business and you put it inside of a trust, it's called an irrevocable spendthrift trust that was created before the United States Constitution. This is the high-end way to separate yourself from the federal government is that you put all your assets and businesses inside of a trust account, and the trust itself, no one ever knows who owns it. So if you never told nobody who owned it, nobody will ever know who owned it. So when the money flows through your business that goes into the trust, that the trust owns it, because this is where disability comes into play. You can't make money X amount of dollars based on this social security number because we're giving you federal dollars, right? So they try to cap out people that they're funding with social security or disability based on their social. Your business has an EIN number as its own social security number, an entity that's a separate person than you, that's owned by a trust, not you. Hello. See, the trust owns the business, not you. So when the money gets paid into, now you're getting it. So now when the money goes to the business, it flows to the trust. The magical question of it is, well, how do I get the money? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's because you're the person that is actually behind the trust as the trustee. So that means you have access to the assets, but you don't own them. It can never be said that you own it because you don't own it. It's owned by the trust. In the business, you don't own because the trust owns the business. Hello.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So this is a way based upon federal guidelines, and it's all legal. It's all black and white that a CPL accountant can put together that can put a business out of a trust, and the trust can funnel it, right? Then the person can be the trustee over that account. And then you can have a beneficiary for that trust where it passed down from generation to generation. This is how the wealthy pass wealth from generation to generation discreetly without taxing. And it gives you a 21-year tax deferment that you don't have to pay taxes like you do as a person for 20 years. Can you imagine if you look at the last 20 years of working and you didn't have to pay taxes? How much better of a situation would all of our lives be?
Wow. Praise the Lord. Wow. That would be beautiful.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
And it's possible and it's 100% legal. You just got to do the paperwork to put all your assets inside of a trust. Protects you from divorce, bankruptcy, and everything else.
So what do you consider? You're considered a financial advisor? Is that what you're?
I'm a business consultant. And so from a financial advisor standpoint, in the financial world, those terms are very, you have to be very careful, right, in which way you use them, right? But I've served as a financial advisor when I was actively doing securities. I no longer do securities, right? So I won't say that, but I still do business consulting and one-on-one consult with individuals of how to utilize those products. So I'm considered a business consultant or a personal consultant to be able to help a person understand how finance works.
So if someone needed to reach out to you for help financially, how would they do that?
You can reach out to me in a couple of different ways. My website is www.dynamitesloan.com, right? And so that's my direct website. It has a contact me on the website that you can send me an email, and then I can reply back to the email. You also can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on all the major platforms under Dynamite Sloan. You can shoot me an inbox, and I'll be able to respond back to you that way also.
Well, I tell you, you have given me I hope, as well as the listeners, quite a bit of information in a very short period of time. I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm definitely going to be reaching back out to you personally after this call, um, so that you can help us, and as you call John, Unc,
Yeah, big
out.
up.
Yeah, because Sunday it was just such a blessing to see you after what I guess maybe about 10 years since we've seen you,
It's been
you
a
know,
while.
and it's definitely been a treasure to see you and to talk to you on this call. We need young men as yourself in this culture as well as others to help people to be able to know how to handle our finances in this world that we live in today. Thank you so much, Adrian. I really appreciate it. And you know I love you.
You're
That's
welcome.
never been a question. So
Yes.
I appreciate you coming on this evening. It was really quick, but when we seen you Sunday, it was meant to be seen, meant for it to happen. We were trying to figure out what we were, let me tell you, John and I, Friday, our water had exploded underneath our house. We had no water, we had no plumbing. And we were trying to go somewhere to just get a mercy because we were having a breakdown. And so we were trying to go somewhere cheap. So we said, okay, we're going to go to Apple. And we had no idea that we were going to run into one of our sweethearts. And we ran into you. When we looked up and saw you, it was one of the blessings of the day. So thank
Amen.
you so much
Amen.
for
Thank you.
coming on.
No,
And we will be seeing you real soon, okay?
you're welcome. I love you back. Give Uncle a big hug for me. And I always must say, man, I absolutely always have and always will love y'all to the moon and have always admired the love that you all share with one another. The true meaning of unconditional love. And this podcast that you're doing is another testament of the love that you have for people. To be able to share information with people to be able to grow their lives and to be able to improve themselves. And we grow as a culture. Together we can accomplish so much more. And it's never about
Absolutely.
who has more, who's better at what. It's all about us coming together as a culture collectively and figuring out what are we good at and how we can add value to each other. Right. And if we come with that approach of how we can add value to each other, just like them beautiful songs that you sing, everybody play their part. Somebody got to be alto, somebody got to be tenor, somebody got to be soprano. Everybody got to have their part to create a
Right.
beautiful song. And this is how I feel we do as a culture. It's not who's better at what, but what can we do to bring value to each other? And that's the harmony of life that I will hope everyone on this call walks away with, that we all have a humble heart and a clear mind to be able to serve one another, because the more you give, the more blessings come back to you, and give freely. And so this call for me was a joy and a blessing, and this information that was given to me, I give back freely so that someone else, it could be a seed on somebody's life, that at least some water could come by and you heard just a little bit, and that interest, that spark in you will help you do more research and bring that fruit into your life into fruition. So I'm here to serve. I put my social handles out there. You can get in contact with me. And above all, I love you and ain't nothing you can do about it. To the moon and back. All right.
Do this for me. Share with everybody, because I'm trying to grow this podcast. Dr. Porter opened herself up to me when I was very low, trying to find something to do, because all I could do was do something here because I couldn't work outside the home. And I thank God for her. So if you could share to help me grow this podcast, I would greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's a done deal.
God bless you. Love you. Well, listeners of Unapologetic Me, this is Charisma Eve, and I'm going to say for this afternoon, God bless you. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Love somebody. Most of all, love yourself. God loves you, and I do too. Take care.
Thank you for joining Unapologetically Me, Charisma Eve. Please like, share, and subscribe, and join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for another exciting episode wherever you listen to your podcast.